I am so excited for today's episode. Happy Friday. And today I have Heather McGuire with me. She is an intuitive guide, channel, and spirit medium. In her business, The Unconventional Intuitive, she teaches ambitious, big-hearted humans to trust and believe in themselves and their inner knowing through both situational support and longer term coaching to disrupt the unwanted patterns. Her clients learn how to step away from the panic button and rely on universal support to manifest miracles and access flow. Heather, I'm so excited to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to get to hang out with you.
Yes, yes. So tell our listeners how you got here, because I'm going to assume that you weren't always as intuitive as you are today. And tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are now.
Well, there's always so many ways you can tell this story.
Right.
So where to start? But I think that you could probably attest to the same thing that you teach what you most need to learn. So
Mhm.
I'm putting myself in conversation with things that help me feel good and live my best life. So I have been someone my whole life who has had issues with, loneliness, anxiety, depression, and and when my kids were small, I was living in a beautiful town where my husband grew up, where I didn't, and I didn't have family, and I didn't have a lot of connection and support, and those feelings of loneliness and depression were really accentuated. And I was so excited for my kids to finally start school because everyone was telling me that's where you're going to make your friends. And so every day at drop off and pick up, I was ready to make some new friends. But my conversation, I started to realize, was much different than the other conversation that was happening. I was saying things to people like, you have this way of speaking that sets people so at ease. You can see them relax when they hear just the tone of your voice. And people were like, lady, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about. Um, and so I got really curious.
Mm.
One question was, what am I seeing? Why am I seeing people in this way? And two was, why is everybody so like freaked out by it? They don't want to admit it. They don't want to own it. They don't value it. Um, it just flipped people out. And not to say that I didn't make friends and I didn't,
Sure.
but it was more dramatic internally than externally, probably. But it got me really thinking, and all of that brought me to Circles of Wisdom, where we both have spent time,
Yeah.
and an intuitive development circle. And it was that first circle that really changed things for me. Um, Sitting there, first of all, it's a totally different experience than anything else. You're with a group of people who are showing up committed to just discovering and curiosity what's possible. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't. I was like, this is so cool. What's happening? People are mediums. People are psychic. What is this? And at the end of the near the end of the class, the teacher just opened up the circle and said, whatever you're getting, share it. And if there's an image or a thought or a word or a feeling, whatever it is, if it keeps coming, speak it. And of course, I was terrified because I didn't know what I was doing. But eventually, right near the end of the class, I said, all right, I'm seeing it, like a fireman's hat, and I'm seeing the back of a man's head, and he's bald, and I'm a really tall person. I said, he feels shorter than me. And there was a handful of other things that started to come. Once you speak it, more starts to come.
Yeah.
And I fully expected just crickets. Nobody was going to say anything. I was going to get a participation award for it,
For at least
and
trying, right?
exactly. And this woman, not the woman seated right next to me, but the woman next to her said, "Oh, well, that's my husband. He's a fireman, and he's bald, and he's, 5, 6, and all of the confirming all of these things that I had sensed. And something changed so dramatically for me just in that moment. This realization instantly that there was something much bigger than me, a consciousness and awareness, uh, source of information that's I was plugged into just by being alive, you
Wow.
know? Um, and working with that, practicing with that, coming to understand that it was always feeding me information that was either helpful for me, helpful for someone else, kind, loving, supportive. There was never a message that said, you suck, you should go hide, you
Right.
should never speak to anyone. It was always really affirming and loving and kind and generative. And because I could feel all of that for other people, because I could see all of that for other people, I started to really believe it and feel it for myself.
That's beautiful. I love that story. I'll share my first story of being in a circle. So I saw a girl that I went to high school with posted on social that she was going to lead this mediumship circle. Well, my brain is, I'm not a medium, right? But a friend of mine was. So I said, hey, you might want to go to this. And she said, well, why don't you come with me? And I thought, well, but I'm not a medium. And I reached out to the high school friend and she said, well, come, because everyone has it, right? It's a muscle that you need to work on. So I go, and my practice had been learning to trust. I have a very active brain, right? So like what comes in for me, I had to decipher between, is it,
Oh, yeah.
my brain or is it my intuition? So I was just blurting. So we do similar thing, right? She brings us into a meditation, we do this, and I get horse and barn, and my brain goes, well, that's fucking stupid. You can't say that, right?
Yeah.
So then I look at the woman that was sitting across from me and I said, I'm getting a horse and a barn. And she was like, yes, yes. And I thought, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
And the woman facilitating it said, well, do you want to share with Francine what that is? And she said, yes, I took care of this horse. And after I left, it then died. And I was so close to the horse. And I was like,
Mm.
huh, okay, there's something to this.
Uh, yes.
And
And it's right there.
yeah,
It's right there. We don't have to go like searching for it. We don't have to have some special uh ordained it's us. It's what we are. It's in the air. Whatever your belief system is, if that's God or spirit or the universe or whatever, life force, it's right there.
right. What would you say to people? Because I get this a lot from my clients as well. I'm not intuitive, right? And
Mhm.
we're all intuitive. It's a muscle, right?
Yeah.
We have to practice it.
Yeah.
But what are some things that you would offer to the listeners of ways to just practice their intuition or just even to be aware of what's intuitive and what's not?
Yeah. Okay. So um I'll answer that kind of two separate. I'm writing it down so I don't forget.
Yeah, there were a couple of points in there. Sorry.
So sorry for the delay there and the scribble. Okay, I'm going to answer that in two parts. The first part is a story. And I was teaching, I was part of this retreat, and I was teaching the group about exactly this: what is intuition? And I was explaining to them that it your intuition uses you. Your body is the medium for the intuitive communication. So it's your thoughts, it's your mind's eye, your imagination, your feeling, your senses, your emotions. It's you. So it takes practice to trust in what you're getting. It takes practice to sit with it and not give it meaning, figure out what it means. That's where you sort of pull up away from the intuition. There is a time to think, but you know what I'm saying. You give it a
Yeah.
little breathing room, right? So I'm explaining all of that and saying, it's going to feel like you're making it up, and that's okay. I give you free, here's your permission slip, make it up. And I lead them into this meditation where we imagine we're meeting an elephant. And elephants are kind of like magical. Most people have a special feeling about elephants in some way. And so I lead them through all of their senses. Imagine you're touching it. Imagine you can see it, what the hair, the skin, all of the things. Imagine you can it can hear your thoughts. You can hear its thoughts. You know why it's here for you. All this kind of stuff, right? Everyone comes out. Wow, holy smokes! I can't believe this. This one woman kind of really quietly, I was so proud of her for giving this voice because it changed the whole experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and she said, well, I know you said it was okay to make it up, but I really made it up. So it didn't work for me. And I said, well, what did you make up? And she said, well, I saw the elephant outside, but it wasn't just one elephant, it was four. And they came in through the door and they were like playing, and somehow they were talking about like the environment or ecology or something like that, and then they kind of were dancing, and then they went in the other room. And I said, okay, you did a great job making that up, because the house that we're in is owned by a woman who has four children. This house was built with someone around ecological, environmental principles, and that is something that was studied by her father and is studied by one of her children. Music, dance, movement is a big part of the family, and when they're together, a big part of what they do. So yeah, you did a great job making that up.
I love that. I actually just taught a class a couple of weeks ago at Circles of Wisdom, and I brought them through a meditation. Of course, there's somebody who says, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. And then when she shared, hers was the most detailed.
Yeah.
I was like, that was beautiful for somebody who can't meditate and connect to, we were doing a future manifest your partner, right? So they had to visualize this person and what did it feel like? And hers was so detailed for somebody who can't meditate, right? Is making it, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. That's that place where that is such a block to intuition, where you are telling yourself what it should be.
Yeah.
This isn't, I'm not doing it because it should feel like that. It should look like that. And that's that. So you asked about what does intuition feel like? How do I know if it's intuition? And intuition is easy. It's what just shows up. And it doesn't ever feel judgmental. It doesn't ever feel critical. It's never telling you, it can tell you, no, don't do that. Like it can be around physical safety. There was a whole book I read about fear and how fear is your intuition, and people having this fearful response. Someone spent all the rest of his life savings on to go to like Ecuador, and this was his last chance for his business. He spent everything he had. He went, his big meeting was the next day. He went to bed and he couldn't sleep because all he could think was, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. And he tried to talk himself out of it. You're just freaking out about this meeting. But no, he couldn't stop. He got on a plane, left. There was a huge earthquake in the hotel he was staying in.
Wow.
So it might be a protective, fearful message, but it's not telling you to be afraid because you suck. It's telling you, be afraid you're not safe. And there's a big difference. So, and it's usually very simple. It might come as this big image. We've all had that like aha inspiration, and we can see the whole thing, like that woman with her partner. But it also gives you a little step to do. It doesn't leave you stranded high and dry. How am I going to get there? It says, don't worry about it. Just do this.
Yeah.
Just do this.
Yeah. How do you, so I'm guilty of this. I have a very active brain. So for me, and I worked with Heather a few years ago. So my practice has been to really decipher between, is that my crazy brain? Beautiful crazy brain, but am I making up the story? Because the safety piece, right? I've done oh my God, you're walking, my husband was not here last night, right? So I was walking into the house and, there was some stuff going on in my town a few days ago and they still haven't found the person, right? So my brain went, what if he's in your backyard? And I was like, he's not. But my instinct was get in the house quick, even
Mhm,
though I knew I was safe. So how do you separate between like the story
mhm,
and the feeling
mhm.
of that?
Okay. So the first thing is you cut yourself some slack, right?
I
All
mean,
right,
there is a
I'm probably
person that
freaking
had a
out for
gun and
nothing,
they
but
haven't caught him
I'm
yet.
gonna put the
Yeah.
deadbolt on,
Yeah.
right? Just cut yourself some slack. It's fine. Um, and when you find yourself sort of spiraling and you are beating yourself up and you're feeling bad and you're afraid to whatever, go for it in your business idea, really have an honest conversation in a relationship. If that spiraling and that fear is holding you back, you really, one, you need to give some air to it. I've started doing this, what I'm calling capsule coaching, really coaching people in 4 sessions around this kind of a thing, because this is a big block for everybody. We all get stuck
Right.
sometimes somewhere. Um, and we question, is this me? Is this my belief? Is this my fear? Is this the universe telling me don't do it? What's happening? And we get stuck in there. So the first thing is really recognizing the difference between what your intuition feels like and what your fear and your self-doubt feels like. That contraction, that like you suck, that's fear and self-doubt. Intuition, it might say go, leave, get out. But it's very clear. It comes from a different place. So really getting clear about your intuition and learning how to drop into it and notice when you make the shift from intuition, from your inner knowing to your mind, your freak out zone,
Yeah.
catching that shift, that is the first step of beginning to um, be able to navigate differently.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense, right? Like, so for me, it was more around the fear of they haven't caught this person,
Yeah,
right? But intuitively, I think I knew I was safe, but I also went through but my husband's not home. So if I'm missing, nobody's even going to know that, right?
yeah,
So that was all the fear based. Yeah, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And another thing is, a lot of times there is a kernel of truth within it,
Right.
right? And and that makes it a little bit dicier because you're like, yeah, but it's true. It could be true. It could really happen.
Right.
And so you're a grown up. You make a decision accordingly to what the facts are, and usually it's, our fear really comes down to survival and our
Yeah.
human needs. And I'm going to die alone, nobody's going to love me, I'm going to run out of money, and I'm going to, although it's so dramatic and we don't really honestly believe it when we pull it out and listen to it, but we have to give love to those parts of ourselves. We can't just, you can't just cut it off and shove it away. That doesn't work. You have to
Yeah.
just give it some
I
air and
I'm actually teaching facilitating a sacred circle next week in
mm,
this will have already happened by the time this airs, but it's called like understanding your getting the wisdom of your fear, right? Because
mm,
there is always a story, there is always some nugget of truth in fear, and I truly believe fear is an illusion. And I learned that when I went skydiving, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. And I did not go skydiving because I'm an adrenaline junkie. It was part of my personal development journey. And if I can skydive, I can do anything. And the guy said to me, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Well, we're doing it." My husband and I were doing it. I said, "We're doing it because we're afraid of heights." And he said, "No, you're not." And I was like, "Dude, don't tell me what I'm afraid of." And he's like, "You're not afraid of heights. What you're afraid of is falling." And that was so powerful to me because I thought, whoa, right? Because I've been in tall buildings, I've been in airplanes, it's not the being in the tall building, it's the falling from the tall building. But so often our fears are, I'm afraid of heights, and that actually isn't true. I'm afraid of plummeting to the ground and smashing on the earth, right? Two very different things.
death that
Yeah.
scares me.
Right, right. Let's talk a little bit about your capsule coaching. So, walk us through what is the client experience that they're going to have in that?
Yeah. So, it started because I was I created this online course to help people with this. And I was doing a lot of beta testing with it and discovered that it's really, really hard for people to identify what's the fear. And it's really hard for them to sort of let it out, to even give voice to, well, I'm afraid if I do that, then, my husband's going to leave me and all my friends are going to hate me. And oh, really? You launch a coaching program and everyone hates you? Interesting. Okay. They don't really believe that, and they talk themselves away from that fear instead of giving it some breathing room, opening it up. I had a client who's doing this work, and she has this fear of failure, and she's spent a lot of money on different coaching programs, a lot of time with different coaches, and really what we're identifying is she sort of attached and held on to their feelings of success, their confidence in success, because she felt like she couldn't generate it herself because she felt like a failure, right?
Mhm.
We've all done that. You look to other people for help and support. That's healthy. But when you're holding on to their help and support and it's making you feel less than, it's
Sure.
making you feel more broken, right? So anyway, we went in there and really found where this feeling of failure lives inside of her. And imagine what it looked like. And it was basically like this angry baby face, this round baby face with these fists, like,
Yeah.
and it was spewing all these really mean things at her, like, you suck, you failed, right? And as we sat with it, I said, well, let's go to a place of love that we already had touched into our intuitive place. I said, I want you to breathe and send love to this baby. And so we did this whole process. And eventually this angry baby really turned into her and she was able to love her. And that way, those what happens is that the fear, you sort of make some space between you and that fear. You start to identify, oh, that's the angry baby voice. Oh, okay. I know what that sounds like and feels like. Right. I don't have to believe that. I don't have to integrate with that. I can just love myself that I am still having these feelings and I can make a decision that isn't driven by that. And it's that honoring and accepting that allows you, instead of the whole pie being chopped up in slices and some of them being thrown away, you're
Right.
the whole pie.
Yeah.
And that's what you came here to be.
And so often, I see this so often in my coaching business where people reject those parts of themselves.
Yeah,
Like, you are angry, be angry and own that, and that's okay, right?
yeah,
But anger, I had this conversation with a group of women last night, where from an early age, we're told emotions aren't good, right? And it's by no fault of our parents, but how often do you see a crying child where the parent says, you're fine, stop crying? Or a kid throwing a temper tantrum, stop doing that, right? Go to your room because you're showing an emotion. So then as adults, we deem that as bad or wrong,
yeah, yeah.
right?
They're inconvenient, they're a burden, they're not wanted.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And what we find is, and what she found with her angry baby, was that angry baby was trying to be helpful. It's really trying to help us. It's
Right.
trying to keep us safe. And also hers was really trying to push her to do more. Instead of trying to keep her small, it was trying to push her to go for it, to be bigger. It wasn't having that effect.
Right.
It wasn't working. But once she could see it, then it could start to work. Oh, you're upset because you believe in me so
Mm.
much. You want so much for me.
And you're angry because you were trying to get my attention and I wasn't listening. I
Exactly.
love that. I
Exactly.
love that.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk a little bit about how creativity and flow kind of work together, right? I have been shifting this language for me about I'm not creative because I know a lot of artists and I'm not that, but I've learned I'm creative in other areas and that's where my flow is. But on the things that I'm not creative, it doesn't flow as much. So how do you work with your clients with creativity and flow?
Well, you know, for me, a lot of my work with my clients is helping them um, dismantle all of the structures that they've believed they need to onboard to be
Mm.
successful, right? Again, we look to how other people are doing it. What does Amy Porterfield say? How does she say I should do this? And she's got some great ideas. That lady is a genius. And if her ideas, if you can access her ideas and bring them in a way that feels good to you, that works with the way that you work, awesome. If you listen to her and now you feel like I'm a total screw up, I suck, you're it's not a good match right now. Let it go. So the first part of creativity and flow is letting go of all of the ways that you think I'm not doing this right. I
Mm.
should be doing it the way that somebody else is doing it. Um, and letting yourself be curious, letting yourself experiment. Creativity is about experimentation. It's about noticing what works. Think about when you were a little kid. I don't know if you were a big outside kind of kid, but um, I spent a ton of time outside because we grew up literally in the middle of nowhere, and
Yeah.
our vacations were camping vacations. And you know that classic when there's a little stream and the kids build a dam and they block the water, and like that's all experimentation and learning. And you're building on what you learned last time. Oh, last time I put some mud in there and that worked great. Let me try that. Oh, but this dirt's different than that dirt. That's not going to work exactly. It's that. It's not that there's a right, it's a what works for me, learning
Mm.
how you flow, what works with you. And I love to remind people to watch for signs because um, when you are in flow, when you're trusting your creativity and how you work, don't you just get signs everywhere? That's when the email pops up with the person who knows how to do the thing that you want to do, and all the lights are green, all the things happen. So it's really trusting yourself and trusting what works for you. And I do find that actually doing creative things allows you to access this. It's like a back door, you
Mm.
know? So if you are a Zentangler or a doodler or a dancer or whatever creative things you like to do, doing them allows you to sort of backdoor your way into doing this in your life and in your business
Nice.
in a much
What
easier way.
What do you think stops people from being in that flow?
Um, I'm really, really, really coming to believe that um, as humans, we um, we look at things and we analyze them for their value and their worth. Are they good or bad, right or wrong?
Mm.
How good are they? What one's the best one? And that is really not helpful. It's really not helpful information. It doesn't support creativity. It doesn't support flow. Um, it just isn't helpful information. It's really hard to not do that. That's how we're wired,
Yeah.
and that's how the world speaks. Um, but when you can pay more attention to how you feel than what is good or right or wrong, the feeling has such helpful information. And that feeling might help you understand, oh, the way that I'm thinking about this isn't helping me. And you could say it's not good, it's not right. Doesn't matter if it's good or right. Is it helping you? Is it
Right. I love
supportive?
that. I love that reframe because I'm like you. I don't believe there's right or wrong, good or bad, right? It just is. And, we can often say, well, that shouldn't have happened. But if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened, right? And when we're in it, it feels wrong or shouldn't or all the things. But, when you can look back at I know myself when I look back at my, certain events in my life, I'm like, oh, okay, because if that hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened. Right. And when you're in it, so we judge it as good or bad, right or wrong, when in fact it's all part of just the bigger journey. I love that.
Yeah, it's
So
happening. Yeah. When my
yeah.
kids were in middle school, they started saying, that happened. And I think that is the most brilliant, like Eckhart Tolle level.
Right.
Just, oh, okay, that happened.
Yeah. I had a client the other day that was going through something and she texted me after a session and we were going back and forth and she's like, wow, I'm really doing this differently now. And she's like, they really should be teaching this stuff in school. And I'm like, right, because here we are, she's, I'll say midlife and, learning these new tools that why aren't we teaching people how to be in the present, how to stay, not judge, not be in that fear and yeah, that's a little bit down the road, I think, but that would be lovely.
Yeah,
I love one of the things that you say is change your energy and you create ripples in the field, aka your life. And my tagline is change your energy, change your life, right? Because I feel like people say to me, so your business is called Forever Change Coaching. So I'm going to be forever changed. And I'm like, just by taking a step, you are changed,
yeah,
right? Just by shifting that, oh, well, that happened
yeah,
changes your life, right? Shifting that energy shifts how you see everything around you, right? How often, I mean, I know people in my life that have a little bit of road rage, right? So like, how does that serve you by getting angry at what just happened? It just
yeah.
is,
And
right?
think about the ripple of road rage.
Right.
Now, the people around you are angry.
Yeah.
Now you're creating, and it's bumper cars. That anger is going to ripple all the way back behind you, out in front of you. Now you've unleashed this
Yeah.
onto everyone,
Right.
right? And instead of it getting you where you want to go faster, it's created this all of this that you've now got to figure out how to navigate. Um,
I'd love to talk a little bit about what we're talking about is energy, right? And I know there are going to be some people listening going, how can me being getting angry in my car affect the person three cars down,
mhm,
right? And it can, and
mhm.
it does, right? So talk a little bit about that for people who maybe this is a really new topic for them. How does that ripple effect work? How can my emotions, my feelings, my stuff affect anyone else?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great question. And more than any affecting anyone else, it affects the field. It's right, but that's next level. So let's stay here in this conversation of affecting anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, and we're all energy. We're all energetic beings that are in human form. And our intuition, part of our intuition is our intaking energy and making sense of it, making meaning out of it. And think about when you're at a traffic light and you feel someone looking at you.
Right. Yeah, I
You're
love that.
feeling that energy. Now you feel somebody driving behind you, and a lot of times you feel them before you see them. You feel uncomfortable and you look up and somebody's on your bumper and you're like, what's happening here,
Mm,
right? So that energy hits you first. Them looking at you hits you first. So already there's that ripple that you've had the experience of feeling somebody else's energy. You've been with someone, maybe you've worked in an office with someone who's really angry all the time or really sad all the time. And you know that you feel it, right? You absorb it. Um, there was a little social experiment I read about one time, and it was a big office, and they started leaving change in the Coke machine just to see what would happen,
right.
right? And over the course of about 2 weeks, the whole mood of the office changed. All of a sudden, people were laughing and joking, and it was this whole different place to work, right? Because they started leaving change in the Coke machine. It started to feel like a lucky place. There was kindness, generosity, right? So that energy moved. There was another story I read about another office. The office is such a great like experimentation
Right. Oh,
place, right?
100%.
And the culture in the office was really negative, and they were bringing in consultants to figure out like what can we do about this. And one person went on vacation for 2 weeks. Everything changed.
Wow.
Everything changed. So your energy is contagious. It moves out. Now, in that example of the road rage, we just are. We just feel it. Have you heard about those random number generators that they have and how they respond to energy?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so Duke University started this. I think it's now at Stanford. Like the study's is ongoing still, but I think it started at Duke.
Mhm.
And they put random number generators around the globe, like 20 of them. And this is kind of like a little computer that's sitting there flipping a coin. It's either a 1 or a 0, a head or a tail, right? And it's random. So at the end of the day, it's about 50-50 heads and tails. And what they found is that these random number generators can be influenced by what's going on around them. They can become less random if something is really happening. If there was an earthquake or a whatever, explosion, something like that. Which is interesting that in this localized place that can happen. But what
Right.
they found is that for really big global events like Princess Diana's death and 9/11, that globally they'll come into coherence. So they'll all shift from random into more positive or more negative together.
Wow.
But the energy, the collective energy, is impacting these machines, these computers, right? How strong is that? That our collective
Wow.
energy can do that.
Yeah.
Even more interesting is they found that this happened, especially with 9/11, the day before it started happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get into it, there's so much cool stuff like
Right.
that. That's just fascinating.
And I think as humans, right, we are going to have, call it negative energy around us, but then our response to it is our choice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Going back to the office, when I was in coaching school, I use an assessment in my practice called the Energy Leadership Index Assessment, and it measures your level of energy under stress and under every day. And what I love about this assessment, it's different than other personality assessments that are out there. This assessment, because you can't change your personality, right? But you can change your energy. And I worked for a gentleman who just wasn't a great guy. And every time he sent me an email, my response was like slamming on the keyboards, right back to him. And then when I learned about this, ELI, I went, oh, he's always going to be an asshole. I get to choose how to respond to him.
Yeah.
And when I changed my energy, right, I took the assessment a few years later, my energy changed, my energy numbers changed, right? I moved higher up on the energy level, right? That's not right or wrong, good or bad.
Yeah.
It's just a fact because I can't change his response or his actions, but I can change my response to his actions.
Yeah.
The same with road rage. People
Yeah.
can, right? I mean, there have been times I'm like, have a nice day, right? Like I can get upset that you just yelled at me, but then I'm now holding on to yours, and then I'm going to bring it on to somebody else. So it really becomes a conscious choice of how to
Yeah.
respond to that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that ability to observe is where your power is.
Yeah.
Oh, that really pissed me off. Interesting. Okay. Now I have a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can make it about you,
Right?
or you can just be like, he's kind of an asshole. Poor guy,
Right?
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so I know you're leading a retreat in September. So share with the listeners a little bit about the retreat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for my retreat. I am co-leading this with a dear friend. It is September 27th to the 29th in Winthrop, Maine. Um, And it is actually it's a little hard to explain, so I'll give you just some details. It's part of this series. There's a woman named Kate LeMay she's the artist of conscious evolution.
Ooh.
And actually, here's her card deck here. And so in here, she's got 49 cards of, from 49 paintings. And each painting has, there's a book inside, like card decks have.
Yeah.
And each painting has a little description, language around it, and a mantra. And it's based around our chakra system.
Okay.
And so she has this vision of bringing these retreats to across the country, to YMCA camps across the country. She works with the Y, and she's pulled together this team of people who are helping her roll out these retreats. And we all get the theme given to us. Our theme is body. We have her painting and her card to work from, and then we get to kind of personalize it with the people that we know, the activities we want to do. And I will read you what it says for body, because this really encapsulates what the weekend's going to be about.
Okay.
So many times we spend our lives in our heads, letting this small amount of space in our bodies dictate how we move in this world. Our bodies wholly amplify our ability to experience the world around us. Your mind wants to protect you. Your body is a guide to your dreams, to what you're capable of doing. When you're contemplating your dreams, take action. Feel. Be in your body and enjoy your body. Treat it well, as it is the mechanism for feeling.
Oh my God, I love everything about that, because that's the work that I do with my clients, because they all live in their head. So I'm like, okay, where do you feel that in your body? Because your body won't lie to you, but your brain is telling you lies all day long. That's beautiful. So how can people find that? Is that on your website? Because
it's on my website. There's on the menu bar, there's a retreat tab.
Okay.
It's the best deal for a retreat you're gonna find ever. It's $375 for the weekend, including food, lodging, all the things. And that price is our early bird pricing until September 13th.
Okay.
So it goes up to, I believe, $425 after that. So grab it now. And I like to think of it as like doing something nice for your future self. You're giving this little gift to your future self. Like, you at the end of September is going to be so pumped to have this waiting for them and to be able to go and do this.
I love that. I love that. So we'll put all of Heather's information on the show notes. I know you have an offer that you want to share with the listeners. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Well, what I'd really like to share, I have two things. One is that I put together a list of the top 10 signs that your intuition uses to communicate with you. And when you are walking down this path of trying to start to pay more attention to what is happening with your intuition and the signs around you, it can make you feel a tiny bit crazy. You think you're making it up. You think that it's not really happening, and you just question and you overthink. Well, what does it mean that I saw a hawk? Does that mean I should pull the plug on all my plant? So this is a simple guide to help you feel calmer, more confident, and to know what to look for. And so that's available. I've got you'll have the link for that. And then my capsule coaching. I'd like to offer my capsule coaching. It's happened very organically, so people can just reach out, message me on social media or email me, and we can get that going. Okay. It's kind of happened before I've got a page and everything for it.
I get that. Yep.
We can talk about it. And
all right, perfect. So one of the things I do, and I don't think I shared this with you, Heather, I do pull cards at the end of I already pulled the cards, so they're laying in front of me, so you get to pick the first one. So today we're doing the Colette Baron Reed Guides of the Hidden Realms Oracle cards.
Ooh, I don't have that deck.
I have way too many decks. I was signed up for a quarterly delivery, and I canceled it recently. I was like, you need to take a break. It was beautiful. I would get 3 new decks every quarter, and I was like, I opened a deck the other day and they still had the wrapper on them. I hadn't even used them yet. I thought,
Yeah, stop the
take a
madness.
break.
Yeah.
So all right, so we have left, center, and right. So I'm gonna let you choose first.
Okay, I'm gonna say left.
All right. So this says emergence of true knowing, intuition, rigorous honesty, inventory. I love that. I love that. The thing about pulling these cards, and I don't usually look at them. But they always have this theme of the conversation. So the center is,
Oh, of course.
yeah, death reclaims a life. And this one says natural endings, grief, letting go, the sacred quality of death. And what that feels like is, the death of what we think was true, right? Like that also
Yeah,
feels resonant
yeah.
of
And also, I shared with you before we started recording that
yes,
there was a loss.
yes, that's true. Yes. And then this one is a way out of the weeds, a clear way out, multitasking, getting organized. Well, I think the clear way out is listening to your intuition.
Oh, I love that deck.
Yeah, I've only used this one a few times, but it's beautiful.
Mm.
Heather, thank you so much for being here. This has been such a fun conversation. And thank you for the people listening today and for being on this journey towards a more enlightened and fulfilling life. I hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace your inner wisdom and navigate your path on with a renewed purpose. Remember, transformation begins from within. Take a moment each day to connect with your higher self and trust that the universe is guiding you towards your highest good. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, download, leave a review, and share this podcast with those who might benefit from this message. Your support helps us reach more souls on their spiritual journey. Stay connected with our community on social media. All the links will be in the show notes. And visit my website at Forever Change Coaching for any additional resources, upcoming events, and more ways to be inspired. You can also receive a resource to check out if you are ready for your big ass up level. You'll get some journal prompts. And until next time, continue to shine your light and walk in peace and love. I am Francine Tirrell, and this has been Effin' Fridays with Francine. Thank you. Thank you so much, Heather.
Oh, thank you. What a great time getting to hang out with you.
Yes, thank you.